Did that start? Yes, it did. Good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome to episode 158 of Tech Over Tea. Today, we have a new guest. You probably know him. Probably all of you know him much more than I do. Welcome to the show, Chris Titus Tech. How's it going?
It's going good, Brody. Thanks for having me on, man. Look forward to chatting with you. I got a lot of stuff to actually feed you this time too. So, so much to talk about. It's been a while since I actually talked to another fellow creator on YouTube.
When was... I did scroll back through your channel because I like to do that whenever I have a YouTuber on. I know you had Lunduk on ages ago.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, he just stopped in, and that was like in the a year after like the COVID debacle.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, yeah, that was cool though. It was good having him on. And that was I've only done a couple interviews. Lunduk was the only one I've ever done in person. And that's been it. And used to have actually guessed a lot of places. Like I've gone to a lot of other channels and had me on, but after I guess 100, 200K subs, I haven't really done this.
That's because you're scary. You have too many subs.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's been like a year or two, and then I saw I was watching one of your channels, and someone that watches your channel commented and was like, "Hey, you guys should get." I was like, "Well, let's do it."
Yeah, I've been so like many people in tech, in really any field where there's like people who are much better than them. For a very long time, I've had this thing called imposter syndrome. That's always fun. Now I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Just send the message.
Everybody runs into that.
Yeah. Because we've been following each other on Twitter since, I don't know, a very long time. Probably I had a couple K subs.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think I got you and followed you back when you had like 5 or 6K subs is when I first started following you. And then since then, I still keep you in my feed. So anytime I got like my RSS feed up, you're in there for my Linux folks.
Yeah, I think
all right, sweet. What's Brody doing?
I think I found your channel because you're one of the first. I think I was watching your stuff probably when I first started using Linux. There's like a couple of channels where I was watching back then. There was you. I think Lunduk's Linux Sucks video might have been one of the first videos. I don't remember what year it was. That was one of the first Linux videos I ever saw. I saw some stuff from DT and Luke Smith back when he actually made Linux videos.
What's Luke doing now? I mean, I remember he popped up in my feed like years ago, but I haven't seen anything from Luke lately.
Now he's shilling Monero. He's going to crypto conferences and shilling Monero. So,
okay.
Hey, it is what it is.
No worries. I stay the hell away from crypto these days. I'm like, oh, geez.
Yeah, I made my money when the COVID crash happened. And I'm like, you know what? We are not touching this right now. I don't know where things are going.
Yeah. I mean, I made a bunch of, I think I made like 3 or 4 crypto videos on my channel back in 2020.
Probably around
here's how you do it all.
Would have been like around when like library was getting a lot of attention. Yeah.
And all of that. And I was like one of the initial founders of library, and they sent me like, they were supposed to they actually sent me a thumb drive with keys on it.
Yeah, I got one as well. Yeah.
Like 100K LBR. I never was able to redeem it though. Like it was such a scam. Like I was like, what the hell? The time lock happened, and I was like, okay, let me redeem this. Then I was like, oh, the chain isn't public. It is just totally locked out. So they gave fake coins to everybody.
They were supposed to build like a GUI tool or something to handle it. I don't know what ever happened to it because they were selling those as well.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the SEC will get them because I think they were selling to Bittrex on the back end, and then they were funding basically all of Bittrex, and that's where you cashed out to USD.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, man. Oh, goodness, yeah. But I'm pretty sure they're done. So we'll see what happens.
I do follow some of the people from library, like some of the people who work there. I think they're coming to a ruling now or something. Where I think they've now accepted that they actually are a security.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the details. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm pretty sure that's where we're at now. I know they were
Yeah.
talking about like how other projects are now probably going to be marked as securities as well. So like, crabs in a bucket drag everyone down.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's what's happening in this space. And I get it. I mean, if you're a central entity that hands out digital coins and redeem that for cash, well,
Mm-mm.
yeah, you're a security at that point for the most part. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, oh, what a mess.
Yeah, my only interest in the crypto space at this point is like watching CoffeeZilla videos, just finding out what
Oh,
scams are
yeah.
happening. It seems like every time something crazy happens in that space, it's something that happened in like banking or gold like 200 years ago, and we already outlawed it years ago.
Yeah, it's like a different scam just with a new face,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's it. It's just like, oh, man. Yeah. Oh,
Anyway, before we
but
get too deep into that, for anyone who may not know who you are, possibly, give yourself a brief introduction.
yeah, I'm Chris Titus Tech. I was an IT professional for 20 years before coming to YouTube, and I just started making YouTube videos because I was like, hey, there's not a lot of good tutorial content for the stuff I wanted to make, which was Windows Server utilities back then. And there's a reason why nobody wanted to watch those videos. So I made a couple of those videos, and then I ended up switching to Linux on a YouTube comment, and then I was like, oh, hey, Linux, this is cool actually, and it reignited my passion for computing. So ever since I've been on Linux as a full blown desktop, I've just loved just tinkering around, installing, reinstalling, just doing anything in it because there's just so many rabbit holes to go down that I fell in love with it. And that's why I made so much as far as Linux videos go, especially back when I first started my channel. And then, man, since then, I've just kind of taken that and I still do a lot of Windows stuff as far as like Windows Toolbox and some other things that have been covered by some of the major outlets out there now. And that's gotten a lot of traction. I've been trying to put in more development time to build that out. Because there's a huge amount of people now using it. I'm like, okay, let me fix that up. But at the same time, trying to keep up with YouTube, I've been taking a little bit of a break. I should have made the YouTube video like I'm quitting, and then like a serious face. But I was just like, kind of done with it. So I just stopped uploading, and then I was like, okay. So the last couple weeks, I've kind of just gone dark, and that's like the first I've ever really said anything of it. I'd never really cashed in on the views on the exit.
It wouldn't even be like out of the ordinary for like the character of your channel to do like a thumbnail like that. The thumbnail that comes to mind is does Jitsi have a chat? I think it does. Does it? Where is it? I'm gonna send you a link to one of your own videos. How do I send it? Private message?
Either way, email.
Yeah, here we go. Chat.
Message,
Here we go. This video.
Nice. Okay, let's see. Oh, Red Hat is the devil.
Yep.
So the original one was Ubuntu was the devil, and that was my second video to go viral. And that video I've actually privated since because it was a 16-minute rant of how Ubuntu's Satan incarnate. But I mean, it was kind of like tongue in cheek. Some people took it pretty literal, but there was probably 4 or 5 good points of bad things Ubuntu's done in the past. And I privated the video because one, it took me a long time to get to the point, and I rewatched it back when it like started. The algorithm took it again like last year, I think it was, and started putting it out there. I was like, oh my god, this is so cringe. I'm just gonna private it. It had, I think, 800 or 900,000 views when I privated the video, and I was like, oh geez, all right, we're gonna take that down. And I had like relationship with some other folks, like on the Kubuntu team and some other folks, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just take that down because it's just a little bit too cringe. Not that I have softened my stance too much on Ubuntu and Canonical. Because I actually just got flack, and I actually wanted to ask you a question on this, Brody.
Yes.
Was it clickbait? Right? It's like you have to do clickbait, but you have to do good clickbait. I think is the gist of
Yeah.
it in the YouTuber land.
Yeah, I do have my thoughts on this, but I want to see where you're going with this.
So I made a video today because I've been live streaming
Mhm.
and I've just been doing clips on like my secondary channel, Titus Tech Talk. And I made a video today called Ubuntu bans Flatpak.
Uh-huh.
And you have you heard of this yet?
Yeah,
The news of
I
this?
think my video on this just went out today, actually.
Oh, you just did a video
Yeah,
on it. Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I don't remember when I upload stuff. Yeah, I upload my video today.
Okay, sweet. Well, I have a video out that came out today as well, and that was the title. And the gist of it was Ubuntu went and removed it from any pre-installed distro and said, hey, Lubuntu, Kubuntu, Xbuntu, all of them can't bundle Flatpak with it. So they effectively banned it from the install. But they also, going forward on the software store, aren't allowing Flatpak on it. So I said, well, that sounds like a ban to me. So that's the title of the video. Given the context, your thoughts?
I not even intentionally talking shit about your video. I actually did talk shit about it because Joey Snedden in OMG Ubuntu's in the OMG Ubuntu article used exactly that line. So also apparently throw shit at you as well.
Let's hear it. Come on, give it to me, man. It's okay. You're not gonna piss me off. Trust me. I got thick skin. I've been on YouTube for 4.5 years. I've heard all kinds of shit.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure your comments are a fun place, especially doing a mix of Windows and Linux stuff.
Oh yeah. It's a blast.
I tend to save the like hyper clickbait for my thumbnails, which annoys people enough. Like my thumbnail for that one is embrace snaps or face my wrath.
I like it. I like that better. That's nice. It's more tasteful than me, that's for sure.
I tend to, I don't know. When it's clickbait, I think a lot of people sort of misunderstand clickbait. There is being straight up lied to, and there's encouraging you to click. Like there is a article...
if you put like a very attractive female on the cover, when you have a 98% male audience, you know your click rate, your CTR is going to be going through the roof, and you're like, all right, sweet. But then if you don't deliver on that image, that is clickbait because it's complete lie.
Another good example is there was a ZDNet article that got attention from the Asahi Linux devs. Have you heard of the project?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, cool,
cool. M2 basically, or M1, okay, M2, awesome. Linux. Yeah.
They have an article titled Linux 6.2, the first mainstream Linux kernel for Apple M1 chips arrives. Now, the important part of that is the mainstream Linux kernel. The 6.2 kernel does not have the keyboard or the trackpad drivers upstreamed. This is not even remotely close to a mainstream kernel. I think when it's like that, it's a flat out lie. When it's, and I'm not a big fan of doing that. When it's like, you know, sort of, when it's a ban, like, it's kind of like bending what's happening. It's not...
Right.
It's not like...
An experienced user can go and install it.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily banned.
Because it's banned from
But in that respect, an experienced user is not going to be installing Ubuntu.
It's fair to say that it's banned from the defaults of the flavors. That is a... I think because of that, it's kind of like a... It's still clickbaity in a way, but it's not so far that I would personally have an issue with it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was going back and forth with somebody in the comments, which I think it was Don McInnes. You probably know Don. He's probably been around your forums. I bet he's a Patreon. I remember Don, and I can't hide his comments or anything. I'm never gonna. If he watches this video, Don, I get it, man. And he went on like this huge rant. I read all of it, by the way, in the comment section. And I didn't hide the comment. I was like, I'll just leave it there.
Sure.
And I responded to him, and I was like, I agree with my title. I stand on it. Because at the end of the day, if nobody clicks on your videos, what the hell are you doing making videos?
Yeah.
And if you do, hey, Ubuntu now is forcing I'm already over like
Yeah,
5 words, and I've lost 50% of the population. And that's just the stark reality of YouTube, in my opinion. Now, these long podcasts, you could do pretty much any title, and you can have long, in-depth conversations because your attention span of your viewers are much longer.
I just put Chris
than...
Titus Tech in the title, and then people click.
Yeah, you just put Chris Titus Tech exposed. There you go. I'll help write the title for you, man. Get you tons of clicks. Yes. But yeah, man. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of the beast, and it's always this line I straddle, and it's always a gray area for me. There obviously has to be some truth to it, and I always refer back to a Veritasium video of good clickbait, and that's usually my guiding like North Star when doing a title and a thumbnail. It has to be clickable, and sometimes it's difficult to establish those realms where it's like I get that's going to piss people off, but at the same time that's kind of the point. Because if you the worst video you can make, I always tell people this, the worst video you can make is one where nobody feels anything. That video will do horrible because no one likes the video. Nobody dislikes the video. Typically, the videos people like the most are also the videos people dislike the most. And that's like that line.
Yeah, no, I put out a video recently called Linux's most degenerate terminal application. That's a video that recently did pretty well. It's
what was it? I gotta know now.
It's an application called Shell Mummy. Every time you run a command, it'll be like, you're a good boy. Like if a command fails, you're like, oh, it's okay. Next time we'll be better. And I started the video.
Go install that tonight.
I changed it before the video started to Discord Kitten just to annoy as many people as possible.
Oh man. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's great. That was very intriguing. So I get it. But
I like throwing out random own videos like that just from time to time. Because, it's one thing to be like, I'm just going to do serious videos, but I like to just throw in some fun ones there. Even if it might just... If there was a dog barking, now the alarm next door is going off. Whatever. I like to throw out videos that are just fun, that might be kind of experimental. Because those are the ones where it's like, this is either going to do really well, or no one's going to care.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I usually, if I feel a little bit uneasy about the video and I have to watch it a couple times, those are the videos that I always try and put out.
Yeah,
ones where I'm kind of on the line. If I make a video and I'm like, yeah, that's good, and people are going to get value out of that.
Sure.
I know those videos aren't going to do very well. And usually that's just because of the nature of it. It was a very safe video, pretty straightforward. I'm just usually doing a tutorial in those videos.
Yeah.
And that's it. But the problem with just doing those videos is you're not able to instill much of your personality, have a little bit more fun with it, and kind of explore some of these other things. And that's always kind of difficult for me. I kind of waffled a lot especially in my early days, because I struggled. Hell, even today, I still struggle with that, where I'm like, okay, I want to make a good video. And for a while there, I was just churning out tutorial videos with me smiling on in almost every thumbnail. And then finally I read a comment and someone was like, dude, you got to do something different with your thumbnails. You just smiling in the thumbnail.
Yeah, I saw your thumbnails for a while. I was like, wow, it's the same face, but it's not the same picture.
Yes, I was like a robot for a little bit there, man, just like churning it out for the thing, because I've this past week is the first week I've never made a video on YouTube in 4.5 years since I started.
Oh wow.
And that is one of the things where I'm like, okay, I've got to take a little bit of a break and just see what happens in the YouTube realm. And then YouTube throws you a curveball. Like 11 days ago is when my last publish. My views have never been higher. I don't get it. I'm like, what the hell? Why did I wait 4.5 years to just like not upload?
Yeah.
And then it just the last several videos I made just did really well. And I was like, okay. And they've carried through and even improved the channel. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I just don't need to make 3 videos every single week. And I can just take some breaks. And what are your thoughts on streaming? Because I know you stream a little bit on Twitch.
Yeah,
and I don't know about YouTube.
I
What do you
used
do
to do
there?
streams on the main channel. The last thing I did was an LFS series, which drove me insane. But oh my god, my viewers fucking loved. I don't understand it. Like half the stream was just a loading bar as something compiles, and they're like, "This is great content." Like, what are you talking? This is awful. Maybe it's because I was suffering the entire time. But since then, I don't really take streaming that seriously on because I've got a gaming channel. I just play things every so often because I should probably take it more seriously, but I'm like, you know what? I just want to play these games anyway. The only channels I really take seriously are the main channel and the podcast. Yeah. I do upload shorts on the gaming channel because, shorts do well and all that fun stuff, but it's not like it's not a major focus. I do know a lot of people find streaming to be really beneficial, and if you build up an audience streaming, it is better monetarily. But doing what I normally do, I don't know how I would really translate that into a stream form. I have to do something different, but in some way offering some level of value. The content I found did do fairly well in the stream form, because I don't like doing distro reviews, but doing like a 3-hour distro showcase in the form of a stream, I feel like that works a little bit better in that regard. And it's fun.
I can see that.
It's fun to kind of try out, like, random distros. Like, I did a Gen 2 series. I'd be interested in doing like Bedrock Linux and things like that. Or, try out something weird, like, install Red Star in an OS, in a VM or something.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's cool. Yeah. I was just thinking about that because it's something I'm getting into. And I was thinking actually transitioning from YouTube main to just streaming 4 or 5 days a week. And that's what I'm going to do for all of March, basically, just to see. And instead of like pushing stuff from my main YouTube channel and telling people about it over there, I just kind of want to see what would happen if I just did it without any outside influence and seeing if I can actually build it organically or more organically, I should say. Maybe put in ticklers like for like community posts, and maybe even a tweet, but that's about the gist of it. And I think it's fun. Like the thing I love about it the most is I can focus on like a more long-term project and start building out stuff, like building out a new desktop, which I just switched over to Sway. By the way, thanks for letting me know about Wayland. I was one of those people that was all Xorg all the time. Wayland's never going to happen. And then this past month, I'm like a firm believer in your video kind of just like opened the door for me, but really what sold me was when I started diving into the Steam Deck, and I was like, why is this device so effing good? And I looked at it and I was like, what the hell? Okay, it's using Wayland and then like Game Scope, and it's an immutable arch. And I started just diving in more and more, and I was like, I hate everything about this distro and how it's constructed, but it's done so damn well that everything just works and is cohesive. And I know I could do a better job than this. And that was what my final conclusion was. And I was like, okay, first off, Xorg, trash bin, bam. And then I was like, all right, let's do this Wayland thing. And I just started installing every single window manager, everything from, WL Randar, and then figuring out all the different Wayland tools and just going down that whole rabbit hole this whole past month. And that's basically what I've been streaming. It's just me basically tearing down my entire main production rig, rebuilding it, and then doing it over and over and over again on stream. I've done it like 5 times this past week.
I think what really helped Wayland, like kind of just a lot of the open source space, is people just having time to work on things during COVID. Like that's a big part of it. Because I think it is fair to say back in like 2019, 2020, Wayland was very, very far from ready. Like, back
Mhm.
then, you couldn't even capture the desktop with OBS.
Yep.
Now you can do that. Now all of like global hotkeys just got merged a couple of months ago. That's coming to KDE, I think in the next version. Not there for WL Roots yet, and a bunch of these other little things where I've been like, I've sort of been the one person out here sort of championing these issues with Wayland because no one else is talking about it.
Yes,
And
I know. I've been watching you,
Mhm.
man. I've been watching you, and I'm like, oh, dude, this is awesome. And
But these
the
things are
thing
now
is,
being
my
addressed,
channel's
and it's great.
yeah, yeah, and I want to do a video on that,
Mhm.
but it's like I have to make it more readily available for
Yeah.
folks. So because I think there's a misconception that Linux people are tech savvy. I think
But yeah.
there's a good bit. I think a lot more Linux people are tech savvy than Windows and Mac
Mhm, mhm.
counterpart. But I mean, on its head, you're still going to have like 60, 70% of the user base that's not really going to be
Yeah,
able to
most people
explore
aren't
much
developers.
of it. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, I gotta make this more cohesive and make like an install script for folks and really drill down those tools. So it's just like, here's all the tools, here's everything to convert to it, here's the window manager, here's all the setup,
Yep.
and then just go. And that's one project I'm working on pretty hard on the stream to get to a point where I'm like, okay, I know enough about all of this. Let's pick the best of everything
Mhm.
and then make a beautiful, wonderful Wayland-based desktop, which I've pretty much settled. It's going to be Sway.
So if
I've
you're not
moved
using
from
GNOME or
Hyprland.
KDE, Sway is right now the best option by far.
Yeah, yeah, and I've been messing around with it, and I'm like, man, I love this, and it's getting close. I think this week's going to be the week that I really drill down and find my final configuration for it. Hyprland has been cool. I rock that for
Yeah, it's
since I made that video like a month ago.
yeah, I've been sort of having occasional back and forth with the Hyperland dev every so often. He was in my Discord for a while,
Mhm.
constantly shilling the project, and eventually did a bit of coverage of it. But the only reason I would advise against Hyperland right now is it's very, very much in really active development. Like things are changing like multiple times a day.
I got a good one for you.
Mm,
Okay, to reinforce that point for
mm,
anybody watching this, Hyperland in version I think it was 21, they
yeah.
misspelled the comp file. So you go to your .config hyper, and they misspelled the comp
Yep.
file, so it was Hyperland. And it was like two D's on the end. And then people in chat were yelling at me like, you misspelled the comp file. I'm like, no, this version they screwed it up and
Mm,
it's now this. And then in 22, I think they fixed it.
yep.
Now it's
Yep.
back to Hyperland. And I was like, okay. But it's definitely still really active development where I would never recommend someone that's not want to really tinker with the computer
Mm.
to ever try it.
The most annoying thing I had is there was a change that was made, but they didn't update the documentation yet. So they changed a variable name or deleted a variable or something, and there was a function that I just couldn't do. Luckily, there was people that knew a workaround. I think it was for like dragging windows with your mouse or something. They changed a
Mhm.
variable, and yeah, you had to like work around it with like a click event or something. It was really dumb, but I think as much as I think Hyperland is not ready now, I think
Uh-huh.
if the developer keeps up this work, it will get to a point where Hyperland might legitimately be a really good Wayland experience that I could recommend to people.
Yeah.
As it
I
stands
think it
now, I would say
yeah.
Sway.
Yeah. And I that's kind of what I settled on.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
said, I rocked Hyperland for a full month,
Mm,
and I loved the feel of it. I
mm,
loved it was just flashy. I'm just to be honest with you, it's just really flashy, and I
mm.
liked it, and it felt good. And then I moved to Sway, and Sway is more traditional
Yeah,
and not nearly the effects and some of the
yeah.
flash. You lose a little bit of that, but it works.
Absolutely.
So I get it.
My only issue with Sway is it's i3, so it's a manual tiler, and I'm just I've got an auto tiler script that sort of deals with it and makes it, not annoy me. But I just don't like manual tilers anymore. I know they have their audience and you can make really crazy layouts, but for the average person who wants to try out a tiler, a dynamic tiler is just easier.
Yep, 100%. But I don't use too many. Usually it's just a one or two.
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent of multiple desks. I'm on multiple workspaces, and I've been using for Sway. I've been using Workspaces, I think it's called. It's a cargo install on Debian, which I moved back to Debian from Arch because Arch made me angry.
Oh, okay.
Well, it was a Wayland update, and it ended up breaking my Brave browser. And then I had to like switch to Flatpak to fix it, and I was just like, "Oh man!" Or I could revert it back to an earlier backup, and I was like, or I could just be on Debian, and this would have never happened.
It's fair, yeah.
And then I was like,
fair.
"All right, I'm gonna blow my system up again."
Anyway, you're going somewhere with that.
Oh yeah. So the workspaces is a really cool. It's like cargo install workspaces, and it adds icons for all your programs. So you know how it says 1, 2, 3 up at the top of your title bar for Sway.
Yep.
It automatically detects your program, and then if it's a program you don't know, you can add like a custom icon for it, and then it just shows the little icons next to the number. So if you have three things open in Workspace 1, it'll show 3 icons like Vim, GitHub. And then, let's say Brave browser.
Does sound really cool.
Yeah, man. Check that out. And that is life-changing. And they have a couple different implementations. I haven't found the best way to do it quite yet. I was looking at my comp file, and I was like, okay, on the comp file, I tried to do it through that.
Oh, wait, do you mean work style, not workspaces?
What's that?
Do you mean work style, or is this a different one?
Yeah, work style.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, okay. I couldn't find it trying to find workspaces. Okay.
Yeah, work style. That's it. And it's a cargo install work style, and then it just puts it in there, and you can install it on any distro. So I was thinking of that, but there's 2 implementations of it. One, just auto launching it or manually launching it through your auto start, or you could do a systemd service. And I'm kind of thinking about switching from the auto start to do a systemd service because it's been a little finicky using the auto start.
Yeah. I'll have to try that out. That does. So I'm very much a proponent of workspaces as well. I have maybe 2, 3 windows on each space at most. Like usually the most I ever have on something is when I'm streaming. There'll be like OBS, I don't know, like a chat and maybe something else. That's as far as I'll go. But, I sometimes forget which number certain things are on, and that, yeah. So this might be super, super compelling.
It's pretty, I just discovered it today, and I've been messing around with it, and it's magical. I absolutely love it. And I'm like, hell yeah, this is going into my desktop. So I'm just working on building all that out. And then once I get that, I'm looking at my desktop right now. I'm like, oh, it's gorgeous. I just gotta fine tune it. I think it's like the inevitable Linux journey is like you never get the perfect desktop, but it feels like you're so close. But in this time, I think it's different. I think I did find the perfect setup. So anyways, yeah, that's my quest to find it. And I've been streaming just a ton on Twitch, just trying to do it. So everyone's just laughing at me, blow up my system. They're like, did you format the wrong drive this time? Because I got like 6 drives in there. And I'm like, no, I think I got it. I think it's okay this time. But yeah, that's been a blast.
Besides what we've mentioned, do you have any like issues using Sway? Anything that still feels a bit rough around the edges?
So you're asking the wrong person because I went from River to DWL to God, what else was there? I bounced around all that. Hyprland was actually the most polished out of all those, and I was like, oh, Hyprland's not so bad.
That's gonna annoy the River and DWL fans.
Yeah, then I was like, okay, cool, and then I just moved to Sway today, and I'm like, man, this is really good. This is polished. Sway is amazing. And then so I'm going from the other end. Like if
Right.
I was like a veteran like KDE GNOME user and then I come into Sway, I'd be like, this is janky. What the hell? You got to edit this file? I mean, but I'm coming from the other spectrum.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
to me, Sway is pretty damn good. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how I'm feeling in like a week. But so far, I've been pretty happy.
Okay. I do obviously have Sway installed, and I use Wayland every so often. I mainly am still using Awesome WM right now. I haven't made the full switch over. I should do like a full switch for like, you know, a month or so and just see how it goes. Like I've done switches here and there, like a week at a time, but I haven't made like a full switch. I always like having that fallback there just in case something goes wrong.
So you still are rocking some awesome window management with Xorg.
Yeah, my main issue and the reason why I don't daily drive Wayland is the global hotkey issue. So you'll probably notice that if you open up OBS and Sway, if you've got hotkeys like start recording and things like that, they don't do anything.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I was about to call you out and be like, I can't believe you're using Xorg. But I control all my production with Windows and Stream Deck.
Oh,
so,
okay, that's fair.
I mean,
okay, so you would have never noticed.
That would be the pot calling the kettle black. I'd be like, well, I don't use Xorg over here. I'm Sway Wayland 100% on this machine.
Yep.
But for most of my production, like when I have it, I have a stripped down version of Windows with all the services stripped out, with where it only has OBS. So I just boot it up. Everything auto loads. It never does updates. It never does anything. It just records my stuff. And then I that's my stable version of Windows, basically, that has Elgato. I have a whole bunch of Elgato stuff that just doesn't work very well in Wayland. I mean, you can do Stream Deck. There's like Boatswain and Steam Deck. I've dabbled with making a hardcore Linux production box, and I did it for about a year or two. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of accessories that I wanted to add to that production box that I was like, this makes sense for me. And putting in like a beacon sound mixer for controlling all the different levels for all my inputs right here on my desk was just so nice. And I was like, you know what? I like this. And I just wouldn't get that with Linux. And I was like, okay. But it was mainly the accessories that kind of pushed me in that direction. But
I think one thing that might help with that is if these like Linux gaming devices do become more popular. Because we asked, like, you know, capture cards now work way better than they did years ago on Linux. Like I've got a, let's see if we can, there we go. I've got a EVGA XR1 Lite. This thing's great. Highly recommend it. I used to have the AverMedia Toblerone.
Yep, I had that. That's what I started with.
Over here, for anyone who doesn't know, the AverMedia Live Gamer Portable 2+ 4K pass-through, which sounds like, you know, a product you find on Wish.
I know, but it was great, man. I used the hell out of that. I recorded on that for, I think, almost a year and a half, 2 years before moving.
Yeah,
and I moved to Magewell from that.
Mine, it was working fine, and then USB power just stopped. So that was fun. But yeah, replaced it with the EVGA. Worked great. Highly recommend it. But
so if you ever run into more problems with the capture, switch to a Magewell PCIe card. They're pricey. They're like $500, $600, maybe even up to $1,000 for the 4 inputs in. But you get multiple inputs in, and it does a phenomenal job. I even moved to Arch for my production machine because I was on crazy pills that day, and I contacted them because their drivers didn't work on the rolling release kernel, and those guys modified the drivers and sent me new drivers to work on that kernel in less than 24 hours. I was blown away. I expected them to just be like, Arch Linux, no, we don't support it.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So Magewell cards, yes, they're pricey, but their team is damn good. I was shocked. It's the best support I've ever gotten. And
they're one of the
I don't use them now.
Yeah.
I use an Elgato CamLink Pro because it's $320 and I get 4 inputs in, and the Magewell one's $1,000. But it's really good.
What is that one?
Yeah. If you go with the CamLink Pro, it's a great card.
It's a PCI card. Yeah.
But it's Windows only.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're like, damn.
I've obviously got that EVGA, and then for the camera you're seeing, that's through a regular cam link, the cam link 4K. Works great.
Classic.
No problem with it. I used I used to use the remember there was that period where a lot of the tech channels were talking about those like cheap HDMI capture cards.
Yeah.
Did you do a video on that? I know a bunch of people did them.
Yeah. I did. I had a video where I reviewed like 6 of them, and I bought every one of them.
My cupboard.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a waste of money. Just shell out the extra money and buy something good.
When I bought my cam link, I noticed the color depth difference very quickly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've had some of those cheap like $30-$40 capture cards. They'll come in, you plug it in, and it's like everything's red. And you're just like, oh no.
I keep them around just because in Australia we don't have this this thing that America has, overnight shipping. So sometimes I buy something and it takes a week or 2 to get here. So it's nice to have a backup.
Ooh. Yeah. I could see that. Yeah. I have like a huge stack of cables.
Yeah.
I'm like obsessed with just having backups for everything, just in case I need to like move or make like a mobile production rig, whatever. I can just do it.
Yeah, I have a box of cables. There are cables in there that I don't know why I have. They're like composite cables. I don't need composite cables for anything. Why? Or like there's a HDMI cable that I know is broken, but I just put it in the box. It's a later problem.
Oh man. Well, I think we all did that at one time. I've gotten better on the broken cables. I throw them away now.
Yeah, okay.
But I do have no less than 100 extra cables. I have about 50 sitting in cable racks, just sitting on the wall. My wife comes in and is like, really? Hopefully that's not in your camera shot because you look like a massive cable hoarder.
I should do something with that, to be honest. Like because I'm living with one of my mates right now, and he's like, you know what? If you want to put things on the wall, go ahead. So I might have to do something like that. That could be a good idea. Would get rid of a lot of the junk.
I like it, but it's not exactly aesthetically pleasing. So there's that.
I guess. No, that's fair.
It's functional though. Yeah. But I mean, I can't tell you how many times I go over there. I'm like, I need this cable. And be like, okay, HDMI's are over here. I got my USB-Cs. I got micro USBs, and I just can grab whatever I need. And I have a whole thing of just different audio cables.
Yep.
It's legit.
For anyone out there, if you want the one recommendation I can make if you're doing anything on YouTube, have backup cables, because something's gonna go wrong just when you want to record a video.
Yep, it happens all the time.
I haven't had to touch it, but I do have a backup XLR cable. Hopefully, I don't have to use that anytime soon, but it's there just in case.
Yeah, I actually spent a ton of money and got, oh man, what is it? It's like the nicest XLR cable you can buy.
Yeah.
It's like the Modex ones or whatever it is. I can't remember. It's not Modex. It's something like that. I can't remember the name offhand. But it was like $80 for like a 10-foot XLR cable.
Yeah.
It was just stupid expensive. And I was like, okay, this is really going to up my audio game. And at the end of the day,
it didn't do anything.
No, don't waste your money on that stuff. Just go buy like a mono price cable. You'll be fine.
Get yourself an Amazon basic cable. It'll do there are differences, and if you're in like a high interference area and you're going over a long distance, yes, for any of the audio nerds, there is obviously a difference between the cables. But if you're running, 1 foot, it doesn't matter.
And also the fact that it gets like overly compressed by YouTube. And at the time I was going into like a really crappy mixer and just destroyed my audio. And I was like, okay. So there's always, I've had an audio struggle ever since I started. And I still have to this day. I just replaced a whole bunch of my audio equipment to just consolidate to one little box. And it's a pretty cheap box. It's only like $500, which is cheap in the audio land. And I don't do a lot of the compression, a lot of other stuff. Now it's just a direct feed in. I don't have to do a bunch of filters, and it sounds pretty good. It could sound probably better, but for now I'm like, okay, it's good.
So what are you using right now?
Right now, I just switched to Presonus Studio 1824C.
I love dumb gear like
And
that. Eight.
I loved it because you could plug the USB-C directly into the production machine, and it would just feed all the inputs in there independently. So then you can control each one from an independent source, and it's great. I really wanted to do an RME UFX Plus. They're about $3,000 for those bastards, but yeah, that'll break the bank. But those guys are like what music producers and stuff do. Same thing, but just higher quality preamps and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I was like, I'll get one of those. You just can't get them anymore.
Right.
They stopped manufacturing them because I guess the chips aren't made anymore or something crazy.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, well, I guess this PreSonus will be getting me by. But it was a good upgrade from what I was using.
What do you use as a mic right now?
So I've gone back and forth for the best audio quality. I really like the Heil PR40 fed into Soya's preamp. A lot of people are like all about Cloud Lifter, and I think the Soya's preamps you can't get anymore because they're from Russia. But I got one before all of that, and it's awesome. So that's for the best sound quality. But I kind of move around all the time now, so I was like, I can't have the dynamic mic up in my grill, and I was like, all right, I'm going to remove all that and just go to an overhead boom mic. So I just looked up kind of what they use in the movie industry, and I found this Sennheiser, I want to say it's a 914, I think it is. Let me look. Something like that.
There is a device that came up when I searched that, so presumably that's a thing. The E914?
Maybe. Let's see. What was it? Sennheiser.
High-grade cardioid condenser microphone for demanding applications. Outstanding sound property for blah, 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 blah. Don't care.
No, that wasn't it. It was, damn. I'll have to look it up and send it over to you.
Boom.
It was.
See what comes up.
Yeah. I'm like, geez, I know it's in here. But.
The
MKH 416, maybe? No. Oh, yeah, that's it. MKH 416.
Okay, cool. Here we go.
Yeah, that's what I'm using right now. And I really like it. It's a pretty solid mic.
This microphone is so professional. Sounds good. Great review.
It sounds like a paid review. It's a pretty damn good mic, I will say that.
Oh yeah, for $1,000, I do hope it sounds good. Yeah, the Australian dollars are.
Yeah, it is $1,000. So there is that. Yeah. And the first time I hooked it up, it sounded like crap. So
I've considered doing a shotgun mic before because I do kind of like the look it gives with a shot, just having nothing in the frame.
It's a difficult thing to do, but if you can do it, the one thing I would say is it still has to be within about a foot of your mouth. So what I do is I kind of just have this arm that comes up and the mic is about that far away. So it's less than about a foot from my mouth. It's just a hair out of frame.
The only thing I'd want to do before I try that, this mic can kind of deal with it, but this room's a little bit echoey. I've been meaning to deal with that for ages. I just haven't gotten around to it.
So I'll tell you this: I've bought in so much sound dampening crap. I bought those stupid black foam tiles you see all these dumb YouTubers buy. I was one of those dumb YouTubers that bought them, put them all up, spent like hundreds of dollars on them, and they barely did anything. They did some stuff, but it was not very good. So at the end of the day, I just built my own sound panels. They were about $100. I built a wooden frame, got some rock wool, put them in, and then some really dense fabric. Wrapped it, stapled it down, and then just put it on the wall with a little backlight. And it's like, dude, that looks infinitely better than anything I can buy in the store. And it does such a good job with the audio. So sorry, I didn't mean to rant all the time about all the different stuff, but I actually get to talk to somebody that
that's totally fine. The more that you talk, the less that I talk. It's great. This room isn't as bad as it could be because I have carpet, which is great for this chair. I've got chair mats under it because otherwise I can't move it. But this room has pretty thick carpets, so it's not. And it's my bedroom as well. Like, so there is stuff in it. if it was just an office, it would not be great. I would have had to do something about it ages ago.
Yeah, so I mean, with you though, you got the Shure SM7B, probably fed into a Cloud Rifter. What are you using for your mixer?
I've got a Yamaha MG10XU because I bought something that was way overkill.
Yeah, so I think that is a pretty, like, you could literally have a drum playing behind you and nobody would know.
The only, I
love that mic for that.
No, this mic's great. Sometimes like you probably couldn't even hear the dog that was barking next door before.
Nope. Couldn't hear any of it. It was just your voice.
This is great for dealing with this room. But if I wanted to try out something different, like a shotgun mic, like really anything else, it's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, it just picks up too much. Yeah, man, I get it. For a while there, for 2 years, I was using the SM7B because I had a window air conditioner that set 2 feet from me. So anytime that kicked in, you couldn't even hear yourself think, but I could still record with that on.
Right.
So a lot of my audio in the early days was kind of garbage.
Yeah, no, when I recorded, I had a ducting air conditioning, and the air would just blow directly onto the mic, and you couldn't actually hear it in most cases. When it did get bad, I did have a solution though. I could hang a towel just out of frame that would block the air.
There you go. It's always those solutions that just kill, man. It's always the homemade stuff that it makes for the best. Like, I can't think of anything that I've bought that's like, oh my god,
reminds me.
Needed that.
I'm going to show you what my old camera mount used to be. Give me 1 second.
Okay, let's see it.
Entertain the people for a moment. Here it is. Oh, there we go. This is something my stepdad put together. So you would mount it on the table like this. There's like a bolt here, and then that can go in like so.
Hell yeah. I mean, that looks sturdy though, man.
It was definitely sturdy. And you just like screw, there we go. You can just screw that in and just put it on like that.
Why'd you stop using it?
I didn't so I've got my camera on a stand behind the desk now. I don't particularly like, especially when I'm gaming. I'm an angry gamer. Sometimes I hit my desk.
Yeah.
I know some people like that look. The only problem is when you hit the desk enough times, the camera droops, and then you got to fix it.
Yep, I'm right there with you, man. I have my camera actually bolted to the wall, so I have my desk right here, and then the camera's just bolted to the wall because I
that's a really good idea, actually, huh?
I just put a couple holes in the wall, but I've put so many holes in these walls. I mean, hey, what's one more?
Well, I've considered doing something like that with my my lights, because I've got. Actually, no, I can't take them down. Do I have a spare one? No, I don't. I've got a set of Neewer 480s, I think they are. The big Neewer light panels. And they're on stands, but because they're on stands, I have to bring the desk a little bit out from the wall. So it might just be easier to put them directly up there.
I would. I would just bolt it up in the top right corner of wherever you're at, and if you have like a big diffuser or light box, you could make a really good shot with that. And that way you can add some dynamic range to your shot too, because if you have everything just like right here where it's coming at you, everything's lit and everybody can see everything, but sometimes it's best to have like a little bit, one side should be lit a little bit more than the other, and some other stuff, at least from what I read on YouTube, or watched on YouTube. I was like, okay, let me try that. So I've tried so many incarnations of it, and I got like little light spots where you can just turn stuff on and get like a blue glow if you want, or just maybe a little bit more filling. I mean, it just depends on the mood that you want to set on the camera, but I always like having something to where you could fill in whatever light you have.
Yeah. What do you actually use as the camera right now?
I am cheap and I don't like switching anything, so I've been rocking a Canon M200, which is about a $400 camera.
Yeah, I've got the same thing.
I love it. it just works.
I probably should either bring it closer or stick a lens with a bit more zoom on it, just so I can get, you know, a fancy bokeh shot. But yeah, it does the job. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm like, hey, if it's, you know, you could do like a full frame. And frankly, for how close I have this, I should switch to a full frame and do all of it. But then I'm like, does it really matter? At the end of the day, we're talking about Linux and other stuff, and people really don't come to look at my face. Well, so I was just like, it's fine.
Well, in my case, actually, you do have like a little cam when you show your desktop, yeah? Yeah. Half the time the video is going to be on that anyway, so it doesn't.
Yeah, and usually what I do is when I have this, I have a green screen back here. 1 second. I just pull this bad boy down.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's just gone. So that's what I do. 1 second, I'll plug you back in so we don't have reverb. Try to do like a little headset. There we go.
So that's just mounted to your roof then, is it?
Yeah, I just mounted it up there. If you walked in this room, you'd be like, oh my, this looks like a disaster zone. Because I just take, like, I got 2x4s with a pull-up bar strapped up there just because I was like,
yeah,
hey, I'm going to do that
I did see the pull-up bar when you did the FF11 stream.
Yes. And I was like, hey, I'm just going to knock out all this and we're just going to combine all this in there and I'm going to get in shape and stream. And I don't know. I got a bunch of crazy ideas like that.
No, it's actually a great idea, to be honest. When I saw the number of how many pull-ups you'd done, I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm being a bit lazy. Maybe I should work out more.
I think we got all work out more. And I've been watching. Oh, geez, this is embarrassing, but I love David Goggins. I don't know.
Goggins is great,
dude. That guy, like, because I was like, stay hard, yeah. Who's gonna carry the boats?
Okay, okay. I
love that guy,
just
man.
In case anybody doesn't know who Goggins is, I'm gonna bring up a video. And
yes,
David Goggins. You know what? Compilation, why not? I'm sure we can find something fun. I'm seeing an hour 30 compilation. What the hell?
Oh my god, dude's insane.
Wait. You know, we just pick up a YouTube short. This will work. Yeah, here we go. You must change your mindset. Yeah, here we go.
Today, I decided to try to PR my long run. So the first half of the run, I'm feeling great. My mind is clear, nothing going on. Yeah. Thinking about nothing but my running pace, what I'm doing, my breathing, everything like that. Get to mile 15, I turn around, and the demons start to creep in. That inevitable wall's creeping up on me. When you push so hard, something's about to give. And I started to give. My mind started to break down. I started to feel my legs starting to hurt.
He's not running.
I started feeling dehydrated. Started feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah, you should be running around. Somewhere. Like,
no one knows I'm fucking out here running.
I love it, man.
Why don't you go ahead?
I got 2 broken feet. I'm just gonna keep running though.
Yep.
Stop being a little, you know.
I love Goggins. Goggins is great.
Great. But yeah, I watched it. Like he pulled up there, and I was like, okay, if he can do that stuff, I can go run a mile.
Sure.
You know, or yeah. It's just like one of those things. I was like, okay, I need to do it because I'm getting older, and pretty soon I'm not gonna be able to do it if I don't do it now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I'm like, what am I, 24? Like, I'm at the point where I should be doing it, so that when I am old, it's just not a problem. Then just get it started early, rather than most people where they'll just let everything sort of decline and then decide, now is when I'm going to fix things. The thing that sort of changed my mind recently, I was going to the beach, and there's this like really big staircase to get down. So obviously when you leave the beach, you have to go up the staircase to get to the top. About halfway through, I was winded. I was like, you know what? This is a problem. It's a long staircase, to be fair, and I was dragging, like, what do they call them? A cooler box? Is that? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Cooler. Yeah.
I was dragging that up. I was dragging up like a big beach umbrella, and I got like halfway. I was winded. Like, this is a problem. I need to do something about this.
Well, man, I mean, I would say like I got pretty bad. I had my doctor say you need to exercise more, and then it's like, hey, you gotta. My liver wasn't functioning all that well. I can't drink anymore, and some other stuff. And I was like, okay, I need to get back in shape. And then I went and made a fitness channel on YouTube.
You did,
And
yes.
one of my things is anytime I get into anything, I just got to go all in. I'm just bam. So I did like a fitness video every single day for like an entire month.
Oh wow.
And I would just record everything. And I ended up doing CrossFit, which is don't do CrossFit. It's just it's I'm 4 months in now of doing CrossFit 5 days a week, and I gotta tell you, it's still just as hard today as it was the first day, and it's just terrible. So I hate it, but I always tell myself, "Hey, but dude, I'm seeing results." So I was like, "All right, we're just gonna keep going because I don't want to be, I don't want to be dead here in like 15 years. Going the way I was, drinking, eating unhealthy, dude. I mean, it would have probably happened. So I was like, all right, I'm changing things.
Yeah.
So always a good time to get healthy.
Yeah, my mum found out recently she's like pre-diabetic, and yeah, I was like, you know what? I don't eat as bad as she does, that's for sure, but I don't want to be in that position when I'm her age. I want to make sure that I can still get out there and, still do whatever I need to do. But she did decide to start like playing tennis and stuff recently, so she's doing like better with it. But
yeah, and I think that's just being active is like the big thing. But yeah, anytime I'm at work, there's a guy that works with me, and we're going back and forth. And he's a big Diet Coke drinker, so I'll go in. I still go into a day job. For those that don't know, I don't do the YouTube for all the time. So usually one day a week I'm going in, and anytime I go in, and he's a great dude. He's really highly technically just awesome all the way around, and just fun to talk to. But he's drinking Diet Cokes all the time. I'm like, dude, that stuff's gonna kill you. It's gonna give you cancer. Don't do it. Put the Diet Coke down. How much water have you had today? So I'm like the nag over on the other side of the little tech department we have there. So that's fun though. I love it. Yeah, yes. Drink more water.
Yeah, this is full of water. What is this? How big is it? Does it say? I don't know. 1.2 liters. I don't know what that is in American.
What liter works. We have liters here.
Do you have? Okay, sure. Yeah, I pretty much.
We don't drink everything in gallons. Well, we do have.
I just assumed it was in ounces or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, we got those. I don't know why we don't just convert to metric, but whatever.
What I've heard, it would just be really expensive to do it.
Yeah, and I think like England converted to metric, but they still like haven't converted all the way. Like stuff is still in like miles in certain spots. Yeah. So it's like a weird in between metric and that.
They still commonly will use stone for weight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But there are
those weird Brits. No.
There are a couple of things where I've just accepted that, Imperial is just going to be the way it works. Like height, I understand enough because, if you say I'm 177 centimeters, like, what does that mean? Like, yeah, like 5'10" or something, 5'11", I don't know, something in that range. Like that works fine, but everything else, actually, I could imagine it. I was talking about this the other day. I think it was the last podcast, maybe the one before that. There's going to come a point where electric cars... So you know how California's going to stop selling gasoline cars by 2035, supposedly, until we get to 2034, and they realize that they have to keep selling them. But there's gonna be a point where they decide that. There's going to be a point where it actually happens, and there'll be a point where they actually outlaw gasoline cars. So there's going to be a point where there are no filling stations in certain states. So you're just not going to be able to take a car into that state. The same thing could happen if the US did a state-by-state transition with to the metric system. You could have some states where they have speed signs in miles, some in kilometers, and nobody has any idea what's going on.
That would not work at all. It would just be some mass chaos.
Yep.
I can just see her, the good old boys now. I ain't gonna do that. Forget you guys.
Kilometers is a bigger number, so you get to go faster.
Yeah. I like kilometers. I mean, I used to do foot races a little bit, so we always ran 5Ks, 10Ks. They never did it like, we're going to go run 3.1 miles. It was kind of silly. So
yeah, it seemed like 5K. After 1 mile, everyone just stopped using miles.
Yeah, pretty much. I get it. But yeah, man. Oh, geez.
You mentioned you started streaming a bit. I know there are people who still play it, but I didn't know that you still played FF11.
Yeah. So I'm like really old school gamer, and if we're being 100% honest, I kind of like hacking old MMOs. That's my thing. And like even EverQuest, you know, I wasn't like a major developer on like MacroQuest, but I did develop some like plugins and other things for, you know, warping around the map and some other hacks for that game. Which, you know, I loved EverQuest to like a thing where to the point where I was writing scripts for like full automation of all kinds of characters like clerics and oh man. But yeah, I still play old
EverQuest was a bit before my time. But my first MMO was RuneScape. I played a lot of that.
Yep. And that was kind of like after my time. So I was like late 90s, early 2000s, which I think RuneScape did come out in that time, but I was like, RuneScape's for kids.
The original version, I think it was late 90s.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, but it didn't really become that big until RuneScape 2 came out around like the early 2000s.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm still playing that a little bit, and I'm kind of jumping around lately, but man, I kind of, it's one of those things where I'm just kind of giving up on modern gaming, and it's a shame because I was such a PC gamer for so long, but I just hate how fractured everything is, and there's launchers for everything, and I just want it to be a more cohesive experience. Because at the end of the day, when you move to console, you're just the other day, my buddy is like, hey, you need to get an Xbox for this. And I got to tell you, then you're buying all the accessories. And I mean, and there's stuff about these consoles that are just downright predatory and no one gives a shit. Like the Xbox, I think it was like, see, here it is. I got a PS5 headset, but I can't use it on the Xbox or anything because the Xbox uses their own proprietary headset. They don't allow anything. Now you can get like a little conversion thing for your controller, then you can plug it into here and then man, I'm just telling you, the proprietary nature of the consoles are just they kill me. They kill me. And I want PC gaming to see that the golden years of like the 2010s.
I do like my controllers, but like, you know, I don't have a PS5 or an Xbox One. I just like the controllers.
They like I would say the PS5 controller is really good.
I think the PS5 controller is when Sony finally realized how to make a controller. Because they took what was good about the Xbox controller, where it's shaped like a human is going to hold it. Yep. And that's all they did.
And they added a little weight. The PS5 got a little weight to it. And I was like, I like that.
Absolutely.
But I just, I look at all that stuff and I'm like, man, I really want PC gaming to see a resurgence. And as much as people can shoot down Valve and crap on like the proprietary nature of Steam, I really like how cohesive that is. Like I've been playing a ton on the Steam Deck, way more than any other device now, to where I'm like, there's hope. There's hope there, and I'm just so hopeful for modern gaming and kind of a comeback there that, you know, we can just sit there and do it, and that would be just so much fun. So I mean, that's what I'm kind of looking for, and I think Linux is going to lead that charge because of, you know, Valve's contributions in Steam. Because then you don't need to run all these stupid launchers in the background that just auto launch on loading up Windows. You know, you can just use Linux, and I'd love that.
Well, I think the good part, like, there is still a lot of good happening in modern gaming, but it's not happening from AAA games. There's a very few exceptions where, like, you should probably play it. But, like, indie games.
Right.
Indie games, there are some amazing titles coming out. Come out now. Hollow Knight Silk Song.
Yes.
I know.
Oh my God.
I know where your office is. You're in my state. I will come visit you. Release your goddamn game, Team Cherry. Jesus Christ.
It was supposed to be an expansion back then. They were like, "Oh, it's going to release later this year," and that was like 5 years ago. And I'm like, "What the hell?
Yep.
Come on, Team Cherry!"
Yep.
Hollow Knight was so good. And this past year, I would say for AAA titles, there's only been 2 games that I thought was any good, and it was Elden Ring and then God of War, and that was it. And those were the 2 games.
Speaking of God of War, a big part of the reason I have this is for PS2 emulation. I am playing through God of War. I just finished, almost about to finish God of War 1 on the PS2. I'd never actually played the original God of War games.
Oh, see, my wife played through all of them. Like, she played through the originals and then the remasters.
Yeah.
So I kind of like tagged along for some of that. And yeah, I mean, they're so good. They're so good. And I mean, they play really good on the Steam Deck. I have God of War 1 and 2 on the Steam Deck for emulating, and I think God of War 3 is on there too. But yeah.
Where I was going with FF11, before we completely moved off of that, I am an FF14 player. I like FF14. It's great. Sell me on FF11. Why should I play FF11?
Well, you strike me as a man with a higher than room temperature IQ, and I feel like you would be doing yourself, you're gonna have to use your brain a little bit more to use Final Fantasy 11. no, I joke. I would say Final Fantasy 11 is a difficult game, brutal, and just you'd have to go in not with an open mind of the control scheme's weird. Like, you don't use your mouse ever in the game. Things are clunky because they're just trying to figure that stuff out back in the early 2000s.
It was the first console MMO.
It was the first console MMO, and on PC, when you play it, you'll be using your numpad, and it's a weird control scheme that you just never will run into. And I don't think I'd ever tell anybody to play it on purpose. If you play it, do the Horizon XI server. It's free. You can get in there. You don't need to give Square any money for it. They've done a good job of at least removing like the play online requirements and just that whole headache. So you can actually get in and see this weird game from the early 2000s. But I would never really actively tell anyone to play it. I love it for its own like personality, but yeah, it's very complex. There's like gear swapping. You have Lua files you're going to make for that, so you can maximize your character. You might have 20 different pieces of equipment for one specific, like you're going to heal, and you're going to need certain pieces for enhancement for that one spell, and then other pieces for another spell. And you got to swap those out mid-cast. Some pieces are better for pre-cast, some pieces are better for mid-cast, some pieces are better for resting and idling, and you just you need all that, and it gets ridiculous. Don't play Final Fantasy 11. Whatever you do, it's an insane game, but I still love it. I love it.
Now I see why FF14 1.0 went in the bin, because they designed it to be a follow-up to FF11. And like, no.
No, you can't do that 15 years later. I totally understand.
I think, what was the current WoW expansion? I think it was like Mists of Pandaria, or like WoW was well established. People may have an issue with that expansion, but like WoW was well established by this point. Like, we had moved very far past this style of MMO, and just throw that out there just wasn't gonna happen.
It was pretty bad. Like, even coming from 11, as an 11 player, I played it and I was like, this sucks. I'm not.
The game was also really badly programmed. That doesn't help either.
Yes, and I was like, okay, no. So I mean, it's interesting. I kind of just like the unique nature, and really, what I miss the most about it is I miss that developers take chances instead of just tab targeting 1, 2, 3 for your skills and ASWD and your mouse. I'm just like, show me something new. Take a chance. Don't just be like another WoW clone or a copy of a copy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when Elden Ring came out last year, I think that was a great example
Dark
of a
Souls 4,
modern game that really didn't just copy and paste everything. And it was unique. And that's what I want people to get back to when it comes to gaming. That's when gaming's good. But nowadays, it's just too DLC ridden, and there's too much big corporate stuff interest in it. So when I play, I think it was Destiny 2, I literally just wanted to throw my computer out the window. I was like, are you kidding me? There's just monetization everywhere, and you see the time sinks that you're going to be in, and you're like, okay, that's just an artificial time sink because they need you to be playing this game for 3 months while they engineer the next DLC that they're going to charge you 10. Don't get me started. I hate it. I hate a lot about modern games.
I did hear a very interesting take about the way that Souls games work. It's not that Elden Ring is something new and unique. Obviously, it's going to have those elements. It's very, like, from my understanding, it's basically just Dark Souls. It's open world Dark Souls. But the difference is it's formulaic in the From Software style, and that is a breath of fresh air compared to everything else in the industry. Because it seems like, I said I haven't played it yet, but when I played Bloodborne, it was Victorian Dark Souls. Sekiro is Japanese Dark Souls. I guess it's already Japanese. It's like very Japanese Dark Souls. Elden Ring is like all of the concepts in the game. Like, you've got your bonfires, your Estus flasks, your Titanite shards. Everything it's that same structure, but it's just not full of, microtransactions. They do have an expansion coming soon. That's a lot of people are hyped about. But when From Software does an expansion, it's an expansion. Like, they still do, like, classic style expansions.
Yeah, and that's, like, the beauty of it. Like, that is, like, the golden era. But people don't do it because you can make more money with freaking horse armor and cosmetic stuff. Horse armor was the start of the flood of crap
horse armor is tame compared to today. It is. What we have today is like limitless scaling. Like Diablo Immortal, 120 grand to max out your character.
I'm so scared. I'm a huge Diablo fan too, by the way. I'm still like, I'm gonna probably get off here, pull up some Diablo 2 Resurrected, and just jam out to that for a bit. But I'm so scared of Diablo 4. Like, I know I'm going to buy it. I know I'm going to play it. And I know I'm going to be, like, devastated by some season pass BS or some type. They're going to put a microtransaction in there somewhere or everywhere. It's Blizzard, and the Blizzard of today is awful. So, I mean, hopefully I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. Because I said the same thing about the Steam Deck. I was like, this thing's going to suck. The Steam machines were a failure. This is going to be a failure. And then it was like, they hit it out of the park. I was like, this is amazing. I'm so wrong, and I love it.
I love the Steam machine. It was such a stupid idea. Like, I know. Because what was it, like a year or two later? How many years later did they do Proton?
Proton was like, I want to say it was like 3 years later. Yeah. Because I think the Steam machine came out in 2014, and I think the first iterations of Proton really didn't hit until 2017, maybe 2018.
The Steam Deck is what would have happened with the Steam machines. Actually, it's still like weird because it's like desktop system, and now handhelds are super popular. I don't know if it would have done as well, but it wouldn't have been an absolute flop.
Right. But here's the thing about Valve, and a lot of people don't realize this. Like, anytime you have a business, you need to fail a whole bunch. And what Valve did was they branched out. They wasted all this money on Steam machines. They wasted all this money on Steam controllers. They wasted all this money on
the Steam controllers were pretty good.
I have too. I freaking love the Steam controllers. I was like the only one, and when they went on sale for $5, I just bought as many as I possibly could.
Nice.
which equated to like 1 or 2
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they like limited the sale and they were
Right,
gone
right,
real
right.
quick. But still an amazing device.
Mhm.
But and by the way, on the Steam controller, I'm still a little bit salty at Scuff.
Mhm.
Scuff is who killed the Steam controller.
Mhm.
Those greedy SOBs basically patent trolled Valve and then to like I think it was like a $4 million or $6
Oh,
million
Jesus.
settlement.
I don't recall
And
this
that's why the
happening.
Steam controller went out. So forget
Oh, the
Scuff. I refuse to
paddles!
buy anything from them. The
Right.
paddles.
Yeah.
They freaking I don't know. They have a patent on buttons on the back of a controller. Like, how the hell does someone issue a patent for a button on the back of a controller?
Yeah, I don't know
I'm
if
so upset.
Sony and Microsoft now have a partnership with Scuff because they have the Elite controllers. I'm not sure how that
Yeah,
works.
they probably just paid them,
Yeah.
and because they just have infinite money, why
Yeah, yeah.
not? But I was just like, Scuff. I hate them. I
Because
refuse. Anytime I have a chance to just say, don't ever buy anything from Scuff, they suck from patent trolling and getting rid of the Steam controller.
I
And that's
do
basically
have
what happened.
a soft spot in my heart for Scuff because, I grew up as Scuff was super popular with Call of Duty, with like, Black Ops, MW2. Like, that's when Scuff was like, you buy a Scuff, like, it's sort of like, to be a programmer, you have to own a window manager. To be a gamer,
Yeah.
you have to own a Scuff controller. That was like,
Yeah.
I was in the middle of high school then. Like, that was the coolest thing. Scuff controller, Astro headset, you're a gamer.
I get it, man.
But like, that's so dumb.
Yeah, it just did them dirty, man. So forget Scuff. I hate them.
Yeah, I completely forgot that ever happened. That was
Yeah, that was the whole thing, that 86, the Steam controller was really Scuff in their lawsuit. And if they continued producing the controller, they'd have to pay like obscene royalties. And they were already on like razor thin margins to make the controller. Like, I think it was only like $30. And then when it went on sale and they just pushed them all out, they were like $5. They just wanted to get rid of all the inventory. And yeah, man, that's kind of the story behind why you can't get a Steam controller anymore. And maybe they'll work out some kind of partnership, or
I know there were rumors a little while back,
ways around it.
about a Steam controller too. I don't know if they were just rumors or it was anything substantial to it.
I would say just rumors, just because of the business and how that all went down with the lawsuit and them losing the lawsuit to Scuff. So, I mean, that would be very, very. But then again, the Steam Deck does have the back paddle, so maybe they find a way around it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would love to see a Steam controller too. That's for sure.
Speaking of like really tight margins, though, the Steam Deck is like. This is like the way the Steam Deck is priced. Like, it's a ridiculous price for what it is. I've been seeing a lot more people recently talking about using the Steam Deck as like their computer, like choosing to buy a Steam Deck over buying a laptop. And one of the things that Valve really has over the other companies trying to get in this space, like what. I'm sure you've seen some of the other handhelds out there. I'm blanking on names now, but all of them have these crazy price tags, like $800, $1,200, $2,000 in some cases. But Valve has the advantage that the console sellers have, where they can sell this device at price or at a loss and make it up in other areas. I don't know. Like, this is one of the things I'm not really sure if there is going to be a strong market of competing devices, just because of how difficult it is to compete against that Steam Deck pricing.
I don't think you can, just because of that. Like, they're selling it pretty much at what they get it at, I would say. I mean, maybe they make a little bit of money, but it's not much. And it might even be sold at a loss. It might be a loss leader. And
if anyone could do it, I think Epic could do it, just because they do have that established market.
They do, but I don't think they have the chops like Steam does. Like, they went through the fires to make the Steam Deck possible with the Steam machines, the Steam controller. They learned all those custom control schemes. Like, just to tell you how good that is, it's more software than it is hardware. I think that's the big thing that most people get hung up on, is the hardware is not really that impressive. RDNA 2, nice, and the layout's pretty good, and the weight's decent. It's still a little heavy, but for the most part, it's good. The battery's a little bit on the low side, But that's all the criticism I have, and I usually can really pick apart stuff. And I'd say for the Steam Deck, they just did a great job with getting you into that ecosystem, building out controller profiles for your games, and then you're buying stuff. And there's games I play like Final Fantasy 11. I rigged all that up. I did like a full sync using sync thing, and then it syncs all my devices up with Final Fantasy 11. I pull it up. I like playing it on my Steam Deck the most because I have a custom Valve controller scheme that has certain macros bound to those buttons, and it's easier to play on my Steam Deck than it is my computer. That's kind of insane that I'm playing an MMO in a better environment than when I'm on my main machine here, because I'm kicked up in my bed just laying back. And I'm like, hell yeah. I mean, they just did such a great, it's the software and then that store tie-in. They just did a great job with it to where there's nobody that can really compete. It's not about the hardware. It's about what Valve did around the software and the thought and love that went into the device.
I think that's actually a good point. I hadn't thought of it like that. I was only just thinking about the hardware side, but no, I think Epic could do it. It's just, they don't seem to have that care at all about Linux, where Valve, like, was it Windows? What version introduced the store? 8 or 10?
8.
Yeah, I remember back then there were, I think Gabe Newell might have said something about it, where he was really worried about Windows sort of going down the route of Apple with the iPhone and Mac OS, where like, hey, you can, with macOS, you can install things outside the store, but you're sort of expected to do things through that, and that's the primary way that software is distributed.
Yeah, and Gabe was really worried about the Microsoft Store and, them taking over and then them locking down Windows and forcing people through it. And I think they still are trying to attempt that with Game Pass, which they've done a pretty good job lately of pulling people into the Microsoft Store with Game Pass. And that works really well for those people that have an Xbox. And that this is mostly Americans, though. I mean, Xbox has terrible adoption around the world, but here in America, it's actually like a 40% adoption rate, which is pretty good for Xbox. What is it? The Xbox X, the latest Xbox, whatever it is.
People just call it the Xbox Series, because there's the S and the Xbox X or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the Xbox Series. The new Xbox.
Yeah.
And they
name.
really have a really good tie-in with that. Like, I just loaded up one, and I was like, oh wow, this is a really good. They tie in with a $1 a month charge. And then it changes to $15 a month, but you can play it on your computer and the Xbox. So everyone's going to sign up for that. And gamers, traditionally a little bit lazy, and they're going to forget to cancel. So they're going to get charged $15 a month, times that by 12. Bam, you just made an extra $200 or, $180 a month or a year off of everybody that's in your console. And you're just offering, decent games. I think Atomic Heart was on there, and some other ones were on Game Pass that are actually pretty good. But the value is there for the gamer, so to where if they're a really hardcore gamer, they're probably going to have it. And if they're not, they're probably going to sign up and forget. And it's just, I see it. And getting back to where Gabe was, he was really worried that they really execute with the Microsoft Store. And, luckily for us, Microsoft's pretty incompetent. And that never really happened. The Microsoft Store has always been kind of a hot mess. And no, I don't know if they can ever really fix that. Like, I see the inner workings of that Microsoft Store when I'm gutting it for like a toolbox or whatever I'm going to be doing. When I'm stripping down a lot of these Windows systems. And I look at that Microsoft Store, and it's, man, they always have a way of screwing things up. Like, they'll go from these AppX things that we get used to and how they install and uninstall, and we could, manipulate those with PowerShell. And then pretty soon they add like provisioned AppX, and it just gets into this huge debacle. And they don't do a good job with executing, and I don't think they ever will on the Microsoft Store. I just don't think they're capable of putting together a cohesive store experience where people are like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to install that through the Microsoft Store. Your grandma's going to install Solitaire through the Microsoft Store. but I don't really see gamers doing it other than to cash in on their Game Pass.
Minecraft. I think the there's a version of Minecraft you have to get through this. I don't know. I don't use Windows.
Yeah, I can tell you about all of it. Like, yeah, I do Minecraft. I've had a Minecraft server for 2 years that I've administered
the last
and
time
run.
I played Minecraft was this is one of those things where I was the perfect age for it. I played from the start of the beta until the end of the beta, which was like 7 years or something. And I haven't touched the game since. It was the beta in Minecraft is like the alpha was like 5 years, the beta was like 5. Like it was not an alpha and a beta. Like just stop. It was a full release and you were just patching the game. But yeah, I haven't played since the release version, which I think release version was when the Ender Dragon was added.
Okay.
Oh, you're out of focus now. Oh, now we're back.
Nope. Yeah. My cam. It's getting dark in here. Here, let me turn them on my light. Sometimes that helps. Where's that? There we go. There. Let there be light. Maybe it'll go back and focus a little bit better. Now.
Yeah, you're saying about Minecraft.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I've been doing that. Minecraft.christitus.com, and I've been running that for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And me and my daughter will play occasionally and load that up. And I've set like different worlds that pull into other things. There's a lot of Linux administration to the back end there that's really fun. So I actually enjoy a lot of the technical aspects of it, where you're loading up and setting cron jobs, and I'll leave that server going, and usually I can go for like 3 months, 6 months without ever even really touching the back end. Oh man, it's just fun kind of messing with.
Yeah. I don't know. I was trying to think of a way to segue out of that. It didn't work too well. You know what? We'll go back to YouTube for a bit. So your channel, okay, you've got a weird channel because you do Windows and Linux. I just deal with the Linux people.
Yeah.
What is your comment section like with that swapping back and forth? Have you sort of developed an audience that cares about both? Do you have the Linux people that come in like window bad? Like how does that usually go down for you?
It's weird. So initially I was all Linux all the time for a good year or two, and that's all I really covered. And I mean I put in occasional Windows videos, and those would do really well. Like they'd be bangers. Like I had one where it was just like how to remove a virus from your computer, and I showed how to use Tron script, and it would strip out everything. And that one I think is at like 2 million views or something ridiculous. And I occasionally sprinkled this in while I was doing Linux, but most Linux people don't remember that.
Right.
And then I had a toolbox I made, and that just kind of took off. And people started using it. I got featured in a lot of big articles, and then that came into. So the audience kind of shifted on my channel to where it was all Linux, and now it's mostly IT professionals, I'd say. People that use both Linux and Windows is probably my primary audience.
They just don't really have like a... They use them, but they don't really have like...
They don't have a preference.
Care about... Yeah, it's not like, my personality is I use Linux.
Right. So you'll run into that, and I would say you get... The comment section's cleaned up a bit. Because the Linux folks can be kind of diehards. I don't know if you know that or not.
Oh, I'm very aware.
They can be pretty passionate about things.
Yeah, I didn't mention... I talked about rolling releases recently. I didn't mention OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. And the OpenSUSE Tumbleweed users got very annoyed with me.
Yes. And I mean, it's just a very passionate community. And that's Linux. Windows users are not passionate. They use Windows out of like captured, they're like, I have to use it because I have this proprietary application and it only runs in it and it doesn't run in Wine, and I have to use Windows. So that's like my audience, and you get a good mix there. And the big thing is to instill feeling in a Linux video is really easy. So we talked about how important it is for people to feel stuff when they watch your videos. And like we talked about Ubuntu, bands, whatever. Yeah. On Windows, it's harder to instill that emotion in there. And when I do get it in there, that video is just gonna, I know immediately gonna get 100,000 plus views. And that was like the last video I made on the channel. Was I was fixing a computer, and it was a printer I couldn't install, which stupid, right? You can't install a printer. I mean, well, that's Linux problems usually, but this was a Windows, Windows Home, and Windows 11 Home, and they removed a lot of the back end that I used to manually install printers, and they just never replaced it with anything on a Windows 11 Home. Now on Windows 11 Pro, it still existed, but on Windows 11 Home, it didn't. And that just pissed me off to no end. So I rant and raved about that in that video, and it was pretty raw. But it's those types of things that I like to try to do. But getting to your original question about, is that user base different? It's more of just trying to speak to them, and it's still something to where it's harder to mobilize, I guess, or really get people to care about the videos more that I'm touching on Windows. It's still possible, but it's much more difficult. Where in Linux, there's just new and exciting stuff happening all the time that 1% niche people really care about, and I love, but that's it's not going to speak to many people,
right?
And it's hard to go from that to Windows, where 80% of the entire compute base uses, and then trying to show something that one they've never seen before, or show something that's either exciting, or more often than not, you almost have to take a more negative approach where it's like, look what Microsoft screwed up this time.
Yeah, you got to take the AAA gaming channel approach, where it's like, gaming is dead, gaming is dying. This is why microtransactions are destroying the industry.
Yeah, I mean, do like a Josh Strife Hayes. I don't know if you watch him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think he totally burnt out on gaming, by the way. I love his videos, and he's just stopped producing. I was like, dude, I get it, though. Like, he's so jaded now because he's seen gaming for what it's become. And he's like, ah. But, yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at, is now it's like, hey, trying to make things better for people. And that's what I try to do with all my projects now, is just make something unique that no one's ever seen before, and then make them just enjoy their computing experience. If you can do that, then make someone's life easier, or just improve their computing life by introducing a tool or just teaching a new way of doing things. That's kind of what I live for. And that's what I try and teach, whether it's live streaming, whether it's a YouTube video, all of that, man. I'm just, that's where I try to focus my efforts. And sometimes it's hard to come across and deliver that. And sometimes I find when I was forcing myself to do the videos in a consistent way, because if you're not consistent on YouTube, blah blah blah, you're gonna fail and all that. There's truth to that, but you still gotta do those banger videos that just I always try and remind myself that's what I try to do.
There's truth to that, but then there's also internet historian.
Oh yeah.
One video.
What, did he disappear after the Concordia deal, the Concordia video, and then he like is gone for a year? And I was like, maybe he just made his bag and he's like living on an island somewhere. I mean, maybe. Possibly. That's what I hope.
Yeah. No. If he's absolutely loaded, that's great for him. One thing I usually like to touch on with whenever a new person comes on is sort of how you get involved, like how you first got involved in tech, first got involved in computing. Like, when did that first become a thing that you were interested in? And, how did that lead to you to where you are now?
Yeah. I've always been just a big computer nerd. So I remember being like 8 years old and running into an 8086. They didn't have a hard drive. It was just 2 5.25 floppy bays. And I remember loading that up and booting into, I think it was DOS at the time. I think it was like DOS 1.0 or maybe 2.0. And I remember loading into that, and then you could swap the floppy drives out. And I remember putting on like some of this terrible Star Trek game. And I was like, this is absolutely amazing. Oh my God, I can't believe this. And then of course at school, then you got into Oregon Trail, you have died of dysentery, or you tried to ford the river and fail. And that was kind of like me getting out of grade school era. And then I kind of evolved from there. And my stepdad at the time, we were really big into computers, and he helped cultivate that. And you know, we'd scrap together computers or I remember going to like this shady store and like behind something, like it was only open on Sundays and you had to pull up to the back, and then you could go in and get like cheap hard drives. And we'd get like a hard drive for like $20.
I think
and
those
that
were
was like
stolen.
a big deal back. It was probably stolen, but I mean, it was cool though. It's like this hodgepodge of computer stuff, and it was just a neat era coming up in. And that's where I got my start. And I've never really been good so much with hardware. I've never been big into hardware, but it was always the software side of things that always spoke to me. And I got into programming in the 90s, and I fell off once I got into sysadmin work, and then just started doing businesses and just more infrastructure based. So I did all that, and Linux kind of came about in the early to mid 2000s with networking and mainly hacking Wi-Fi networks. At the time, I was kind of poor and I needed to get free internet. So I put together something. I was using Knoppix. It was like one of my first distributions. And I remember hacking into all these WEP keys because WEP was like super insecure back then. So you could just go flam, and you know, if there was any traffic on a WEP encrypted network, I would just be in like a couple minutes. So I could grab all those networks, put them together, and man, that was fun. So that was kind of like my first start to Linux, and then obviously my career kind of took off, and coming into like 2010s, I started doing more building out telephony boxes. I was using CentOS and some of those Linux boxes and building those for, big companies, you know, even government agencies here like FEMA, National Guard, ATF, all that stuff. A lot of their on-site, you know, if they have an operation somewhere and they wheel out mobile communications tower, most of the telephony boxes were built by me. And we did that. That was a lot of fun. So I learned a lot about Asterix and CentOS, and I had a good time in Linux, but I never really thought of it as a desktop environment. I mean, sure, you installed like Ubuntu here and there, but I never really treated it as an actual alternative because I was a big gamer.
Right.
A big PC gamer. And then keep going, and it wasn't till about 2016 when I hit like the pinnacle in my career where I was like, this sucks. I really just want to retire. This is awful. I don't ever want to work for like a Fortune 500 company again.
You don't like being a number?
Well, I was more than a number. I was the director.
Oh, you were director of numbers.
I was the director of numbers. But at the same time, I was responsible for revamping this entire data center. But the company at the time, it just pissed me off to no end. It was this environmental agency, SWS, and they merged with like Eagle and some other waste management company. You remember that big oil spill in the Gulf? Remember Deepwater Horizon? I think is what it was.
It's ringing a bell.
But they spilled like just tons of oil all over the place, and it just ruined the ecosystem and the whole Gulf.
2010?
Yeah, I think it was like just after the 2010s. I was like
12 years old. I was not paying attention to it, but yes, I do remember it happening.
Okay, yeah, that big thing. Well, the company that I got hired by basically cleaned all that up and made just a ridiculous amount of money. I think in that year they got close to clearing $1 billion. And I thought, well, that company obviously has some money. They are obviously going to have regular infrastructure and be put correctly, and they probably have like a good DR system. It'll be fine. No, it was not fine. I got hired there, and it was a complete nightmare from day one. They were just a terrible employer when it came to like the top-down experience. They had churned through all these IT managers.
Right.
And I got brought in from like a recruiter that found my skill set online, and they paid me a ridiculous amount of money. So, I was getting compensated very well, but I walked into this and it was like day one, there was an on-prem Exchange server that hosted all the email in the entire company, thousands of people working there. and it was 7 days from running out of space. And I was like, are you kidding me? What are you guys doing for backup, by the way? And they're like, well, we really don't back up the whole system per se. We have a copy of the Active Directory, but not really much else. And I was like, oh my God, what did I walk into? So I did an entire on-prem exchange for thousands of users to O365 in a week. And that was just insane. And then I revamped their entire storage, and then everything crashed, of course. After that, we had a storage array, a whole SAN device. It was like a HP left-hand SAN that just crashed. And then I replaced that. We got it all back up. And in the middle of that, I was just like, F these people. I'm just going to revamp everything while I'm here. If they're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars per day that this is down, it's just going to be down for a couple days while I redo it. And I didn't sleep for 2 weeks, basically. Well, I didn't sleep for 3 days, but then I took breaks and actually slept. And it was like 2 weeks of living at a data center, redid their entire Citrix farm, redid all the stuff, and got onto a more stable situation. And then afterwards, I was like, anything's possible. Anything's possible. And I never want to work for a big company again. And I'm going to quit. And I'm going to figure out how to do my own thing. I don't care what it was. So in 2018, I moved back to more small business stuff that was pretty easily to control. And I love small business because it's, you can handle anything.
Yeah.
And I started crypto farming in 2018. And then come to 2020, that obviously had a boom and bust cycle pretty rapidly. If you've been in crypto at any period of time, well, 2018 was a good year for me, or 2017 was a good year. 2018, most of the year was good until like midway through, and then not so much. And then I was like, I should start YouTube channel. All these kids on here are making stuff. I mean, there's this Linus guy and this other people. I mean, come on, I can make tech videos. I know a lot. And then
Windows Server videos.
Yeah, I'm gonna produce Windows Server videos. That's gonna be bangers, man. People are gonna love that.
Yeah.
It was just fun, and that's where it brought me to YouTube. Was that whole thing. But that's my whole tech experience from when I started to now. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. But don't work for a big company. Oh my God. Only heartache, but you do get paid. I will say it's a nice paycheck. I still haven't made what I made over there on YouTube. So. Yeah,
I think a lot of people sort of misunderstand how much money you make on YouTube. Like, obviously, you can make a lot if you are, embedding ads and everything. I'm sure your emails are full of people being like, "Hey, come to this." Raid Shadow Legends,
CDkeys.com wants to pay you, blah, blah, blah. You probably get a ton of those too.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
there have been a couple that I've been considering, because I have gotten a couple where it's like, companies I actually like. Like I do have an affiliate with Linode. I like Linode. They do cool things.
Yeah, Linode's good.
But I've had like Brilliant come to me and places like that. And like, I was very much considering it because I do like Brilliant as well. But when it's like, hey, I am a key reseller website for video games. We are hosted in China. Like, are you now? No.
Yeah.
Or the constant VPN ads you get. It's like, no. Unless you're gonna let me be honest. If I can do the Tom Scott VPN ad, I'll do it. I'm not gonna be like, it encrypts all your traffic. Like, do you mean it uses HTTPS? Like, it uses military-grade encryption. You mean AES? I'm sure it does. Yes, if it didn't, that would be a problem.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think about all that, man. Like, that's the thing I hate about YouTube. A lot of people, I guess the sponsors, I think you can make a good bit of money, especially in the mid-sized realm for a YouTube creator. I think you can make a living doing it. It's just... It's not like I have any, I'm not like holier than now and won't do that type of stuff. It's just... For me, I just hate dealing with the sponsors. Like, that's a lot of them are just not fun to deal with, and that's the thing. Like, I like to at least be truthful and kind of put my own spin on it. And they really just want a doctored up thing where you have to follow a script. and I've never been able to script a video. That's my thing. I can't read off a teleprompter. Anytime I make a video, I usually have a bullet point, or I'll write a little web article, and then I usually have like three paragraphs, and I can't even copy that on my video because I'll just be like, okay, I got the gist of it, and then I just talk into the camera. So I'm not geared for that work, I think, and that's kind of why I'm trying to pivot a little bit away from YouTube being like my main thing, because it's just, I don't think I'll ever be the guy that's like, and now on to our video segue sponsor, and then this video is brought to you by FreshBooks or whoever, it's well, I can't do it. It's just not, it just ain't in me. And maybe one day that'll change. I'll try. I try every couple months, and then my wife or the guy at work I always share all this with, he always laughs at me because I'll tell him all about it too. And he'll be like, dude, it's always the same thing with you. Every time you choose a sponsor, you just come and bitch to me about it. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fair. Like, why do you torture yourself? I'm like, well, maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe maybe it's just like the 70th time I do this, it might be good this time. And then, I don't know. It just never is. So I'm sure here in a couple months, I'll give it a whirl again and find a sponsor that I like. And usually there are good sponsors out there. And sometimes it's very hard for me to put it in. But yes, as far as the money that YouTubers make, it's hard for me.
If you look at the Social Blade number, where it's like from $200 to $2,500, like, sure, yep,
okay. So you're just saying it's somewhere between $0 and $1 million. I mean, that's like a lot of this number. Sometimes they don't even make those spreads properly, and most of the money is not even from Google AdSense. It's sponsorships, affiliate links, and I think
Patreon membership, things like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the product review channels can make a really good chunk of change. Either they keep the products and resell them, or they can get better sponsors because of that, and the sponsors will pay them more. And since they're talking about products, they'll get rips from the products themselves. So they'll sell, whatever product it is, and then they might get 10, 20% rip from that commission. So there are YouTube channels that can make some serious bank, and I think a lot of it is, I think in our space, who does it really well, I think is like Learn Linux TV. I love how he monetizes his channel because he doesn't make jack off his ads. Like he's not making anything there, but he's have you talked to Jay? Have you had him on?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, Jay's awesome. I've talked to him a little bit. I need to reach out to him again. I'm just terrible and antisocial, but
I know the feeling.
Yeah, but he's great. Learn Linux TV, and he does a lot of guides. So he actually writes up full-blown books and sells them on Amazon.
Yeah,
and you can even see some of his early works. Jeff Geerling, which he's actually gotten to be a big creator now. He's eclipsing me any day now if he hasn't already. And he writes a lot of Kubernetes and other stuff. And he does, I think, learnpub.com. Let me see, what is that website? And he makes guides off of a lot of sysadmin work, which what is that? It is learnpub.com, and he writes a lot of books, and so he'll workshop his book on there, and then once he gets it ready or he gets it all published, he'll take it and put it on Amazon. And I think that's really where it is. If you can actually write an entire book and do almost like a full college course, that's where these guys are, I think, really succeeding in this space, where if you're just trying to grind out videos and farm the YouTube ad revenue, it can be difficult to make a really good living off of that. And I think it's finding that in between. It's just, for me, I'm trying to find stuff I really enjoy doing and making, and then doing more of that.
Yep.
And that's hard. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you love the most about this?
Well, this specifically, I just enjoyed just chatting with, interesting people. Like, I've had people on who I would never talk to in any other situation besides doing the podcast. Like, I've had Asahi Lena on one of the developers on Asahi Linux. I've had you on. I had DT on in the past. There's a there's a guy who his Twitch channel is nothing but installing Gentoo on various devices. I found his channel when he was installing Gentoo on a PS2. It's a 36-part series, and each of them are like 8+ hours. It's a PS2. It takes forever to do anything. He's done Gentoo on like a Raspberry Pi and Gentoo on all these other random things. But as for like the main channel itself, I've always had this mindset where I like exploring tech. Like, you know, when I was a kid, if you handed me a torch, the torch was going to be in pieces by the time you got it back from me. I want to know how the torch works. And just, it's sort of an extension of that. I see these things that are happening. I want to just explore them. And I feel like for a lot of these things out there, like especially Wayland, no one's really talking about it. Or if they are talking about it, some of the information out there is outdated. Some of it isn't going as deeply as I would like it to. I just like to explore these topics, and I've always been a fairly antisocial person and fairly bad at speaking. I feel like this is a way that I can sort of express myself and get my thoughts out there. And I've definitely become a much better speaker as I've been doing this stuff on YouTube. There's certainly a lot of work there to be done, but it has absolutely helped in my general life as well. Just being able to string thoughts together in a remotely coherent fashion. And yeah, I think that pretty much answers that.
I mean, that 100%, man. I can relate 100% to that. You take, hell, you can just take my early videos and watch them, and then pull up my more recent videos and be like, damn, what has changed? I haven't hired anybody. I haven't done anything really that different. The fact is just learning as you go and becoming a better speaker. And even in my real life, when I go speak to people now, people listen a lot of times because I'm able to project better. I don't use a whole bunch of filler sounds. I had a tendency of being, well, so, you know,
I do.
I'm sure I've done that in this.
Well.
Yeah,
I mean, do that way too much.
Oh my God, it's like one of those things where you're constantly mindful of it, and hearing yourself speak back is very always something to learn. Because you hear it. And that's the one thing I would say about YouTube. It's great. Like, even if you make 100 videos, after each video you have to watch it back and edit it, and it's so cringe. And it's, you know, those first 100 times, maybe 200 times.
I thought my early videos were great, and then 6 months later happened. I was like, wow,
yes,
that's not great.
Yes, I mean, I go back to some of my early videos. I'm like, oh, it just gets worse as you get older, and you like look back at them and you're like, oh gosh, how many views does this have? No, I gotta leave it up.
I had Nick from the Linux Experiment on a while back, and it's really bad for him because he was learning English as he was doing his channel.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I do remember a lot of his early stuff. But he's been killing it because I always watch. He pulls up in my feed from time to time, and I like pulling him up. But yeah, he's great. He's great. It's impressive, man, that he could pick all that up as a second language and then still speak. And honestly, I like his voice better than mine. So
I think everyone's gonna say that though. Like, no, if you like your voice, I think you have a bit of a problem. Like, it's one thing to be like, you know. It's one thing to hate your voice. Like, that's a whole different thing. But if you sit there and be like, yes, my voice sounds great. I love my voice. Like, what are you doing here?
True. I mean, if I could change anything about my voice, I would say I'd like to be British. I feel like if you're British, you immediately get a little more authority and people listen a little more.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or if I had to like change my nationality, I'd be Canadian, because every single successful YouTuber is like Canadian. And I'm thinking there's like a correlation there. Maybe it's like their nationalized healthcare with like not getting a lot of sun or something, and that therefore they breed more YouTubers. Is like inevitably a lot of the top YouTubers I follow are Canadian. I look at it like you got Peter McKinnon, Linus Tech Tips,
there actually is a lot, isn't there?
Chris Ramsey. I mean, there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah,
That I'm
no,
like,
there actually
there's
is
a lot of Canadians. I've never met a Canadian. You know, I just used it as like, oh man, you know, if you ever waited tables, you know, you see someone that might not tip, you always call them a Canadian. You know,
we don't have tipping here. Tipping culture is so weird. We pay people.
Tipping culture's weird over here. Yeah, we we pay the people $2 an hour, and then they got to do their job real good, and then they get tipped for the rest of the payment. And somehow we're okay with that, but it's probably a conversation. For
tipping didn't even remotely exist here until Uber came along. Like Australian, like we pay the people at a restaurant like 25 something plus an hour. They make the money, and then Uber comes along and it's just like tipping. What is tipping? What does that mean? But to be fair, Uber drivers make nothing from the actual rides. Like, you should be tipping them. As long as they don't kill, as long as the driver doesn't kill me, I'd at least give him like $5.
Okay. So I mean, you guys do tip the Uber drivers. Yeah. I was about to say those poor Uber drivers.
Oh no, there's a lot of Australians that don't. Drivers. They're just like actively against tipping, no matter what it is.
Okay, well, I get it.
No, it's like there are some restaurants that try to introduce tipping, and people are like no. Because we know that there are minimum wage laws, and we know how much these people are making. Stop it. Stop. It's not gonna happen.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would rather just everybody makes a good fair wage. I'd be okay with that.
That would be nice.
Oh man.
Unless you live in Silicon Valley, and then even making a fair wage, you're gonna be homeless because you need to make like 120 grand a year.
Yeah, well, here in Texas, like I live in Dallas Fort Worth. Now I kind of traveled around, so some people like triangulated my accent as like South Carolina or something. I think someone said. I'm like, oh my god, no, that's way off. But I actually grew up in the Midwest, and then transitioned down here to Texas about 20 years ago, and down here the job market's just phenomenal. I've never had any issue with a lot of the tech jobs and stuff. I always wanted a tech job in the Midwest, could never find one. Moved down here, found one like day one, and I was like, this is insane. Y'all's job market is crazy. And then I slowly transitioned, and man, there's just so much opportunity around Dallas Fort Worth because so many businesses moved here that you can just I've never had an issue. So I was really, really kind of wild. But yeah, California. Whew.
Well, that's sort of what's happening in my state. So Melbourne and Sydney are sort of like they're sort of the Australian equivalents of Silicon Valley. Like that's where all the tech, like that's where the Google Australian headquarters were, Microsoft, all of that stuff. But the smaller companies are starting to realize, like they did with Austin, that things are very expensive over there. So let's start going away from there and come to my state. The problem is that means everything in my state is going through the roof, which, from my understanding, what's happening in Texas as well.
It is, yeah. Everything here is like doubled in price.
Yeah, I mean,
it's wild, and a lot of our everything has just gone up. It's been kind of wild because we've had a lot of the people coming from California. We've also had some New York transplants. I think one of the YouTubers, Rosman, Louis Rosman, he moved down to Austin, I believe, from New York. So it's pretty wild, but I mean it's a pretty good culture. I like it around here, and it's still affordable for the most part for now. We'll see. I at the end of the day, I probably would just do like a move out to the country, and just if Starlink's not a gajillion dollars by then, just get a really good internet connection and just live on a farm. I'd be okay with that too.
There are some places I've considered moving to that I can get fiber in like the middle of nowhere. Because
I'm moving to Australia then.
Yeah, Australia used to have. Okay, I do want to end this soon, but I just mentioned this as well. So a few, maybe like 10 years back, something like that, we had a government plan come in called the National Broadband Network, the NBN. The original plan, because Australia was so far behind in internet, the original plan was run fiber to every single property. We wanted to be like, you know, up there with Korea having crazy internet. Now, the problem is the same problem that the US has, where you have elections, and sometimes the party changes. The new party came in, and they were like, no, that's expensive. Let's not do that. So what they ended up doing is some places have fiber to the home with the ones already done. Everywhere else has fiber to the node. So they run fiber to the thing, and then they run copper from the nodes out to the houses. The existing copper, so the 100-year-old copper that was there.
Could the homeowner at least pay for the connect if they wanted?
Yeah, if you wanted to. So here's the thing: they are now they've swapped back to the other one. They're now doing the original fiber plan. So they're spending like twice as much by just doing rather than just going with the original plan, spending so much more to do fiber properly.
That's just governments. That's governments everywhere. Nobody has a good government that's like, hey, ours is the best. I mean, I'm sure there's some Americans that might say that, but probably not. You know, I think every government has that in dysfunction.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes a good government, though. Like, if you think about it, to really get everything done and having one party in control all the time, that sounds like dictatorship, and something really bad might happen if that actually happens. So it's probably best that you have the back and forth.
The good guy's gonna run it. Only the good guy.
Yeah, only the good guy's gonna run it. My good guy's gonna run it.
Exactly. Yeah, well, that's we're past the 2-hour mark. Then I guess we should probably be ending it off. Let the people know where they can find you.
ChrisTitus.com is probably the best spot, and then all my links are there. Whether it's GitHub, you want to watch some of the projects I'm doing on GitHub, to watch me on live stream on Twitch, got that. Obviously, my YouTube channels. I have a Clips channel, a regular Chris Titus Tech channel, and yeah, that's kind of where I go and kind of hang out, man. So, you know, I'm gonna be making content everywhere. It's just sometimes it's a little sporadic. I do have to wake up in like 7 hours and go run 36 drops at a new commercial building tomorrow morning, so that should be fun. So I still do my day job on top of all this, but that's it's fun, man. It's fun. I really appreciate this, Brody. This is awesome. I love doing the podcast, man.
Absolutely. Look, I'm more than happy to have you back on like whenever. Like, this is great.
Hell yeah.
You can actually hold a conversation, which is a problem that I found. The YouTubers are generally good at it, but when the non-YouTubers, that's when it becomes an issue.
Yeah, YouTubers, I think, we have to be able to hold a conversation and just kind of get some stuff. But yeah, man, next time I'll pull up some topics for us, man, and I just love shooting the shit with you. It's great.
Yeah, awesome. As for me, the main channel, Brody Robertson, do videos there 6 times a week. The gaming channel, Brody on Games, right now streaming, probably doing God of War 2, actually, and Hogwarts Legacy. I don't know when we'll finish at some point. After we're done with God of War 2, maybe pick up Persona, Yakuza, I don't know, we'll work it out later. If you're listening to the audio version of this, the video version is available on YouTube at Tech
Over Tea.
Thank you, Tech Over Tea. And if you are watching the video, you can find the audio version anywhere. You can find podcasts, iTunes, Google Podcasts. There's an RSS feed. Grab it, stick in your favorite application, and you're good to go. Give the people a final word. How do you want to end it?
Don't be afraid to fail. That's what I always say. I always tell my kids, don't be afraid to fail, because you will never succeed if you don't fail.
That's a good message to end on. Well, I'm out.